And Western intelligence services have prevented at least 10 jihadist attacks across Europe in the past year. That is according to Dutch authorities today.
In addition, they say that Israel's war in Gaza has increased the threat of further attacks.
Delighted today, joining us now with more on this, security expert Will Geddes. Will, a very good morning to you. Whenever we talk about the imminent terror threat, we find ourselves, Nick, don't we, in the same position as we do with war. If you talk about how difficult the world's in, everybody goes, oh, you're warmongering. If you say there's an imminent security threat, are you panicking people, Will, or are you preparing people for what's going on? A really difficult juggling act, I think.
Well, it is. And again, you know, the authorities have to be very careful about what they say and how they say it. And it comes down to really preparing people. That's all the threat levels are really for. The intelligence agencies and counterterrorism police, they're already operating on actionable intelligence or intelligence that they believe could lead to individuals or parties that could be plotting something. But the threat levels are really a state of readiness for the members of the general public. How much value they have these days, that's another question, because I think with social media, with yourselves and various other agency or news outlets, certainly people are becoming more and more aware of emerging threats or certainly the bubbling up of possible trouble.
Do you think that, I mean, people talk about an imminent terror threat. If I said to you, is it a combination of things? We look at Ukraine, we look at Russia, we look at the Middle East, we look about what the terrible scenes we see in Gaza, we look at those horrific attacks in October, we see marches across the United Kingdom. Let's nail this. I mean, I was sat here the other day. We've talked about pro-Palestinian marches. We've talked about people feeling unsafe if they're Jewish on the streets of London. I sat here and defended, right, the right to have the St George's flag the other day. I got home and we saw revolting far right-wing thugs attacking all sorts of people and waving what I consider to be my flag. What is happening to our... I mean, and I'm not trying to over-egg it, Will, but you look at it and you go, oh, my God, what's happening, right?
I don't think you're over-egging it in the slightest, Jeremy. There are two types of threat perspectives, if you like. There's micro and macro. The macro is the bigger picture, if you like, the Russias, the Chinas, the Irans, where they're not so tangible for many people on an everyday basis. You can't feel, touch it, smell it, taste it. Whereas we've then got the micro, which is the things which are much more in people's faces, which is, you know, these pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas marches. We're seeing news of individuals that are getting released from certainly prison. One most notable individual was Osama bin Laden's leading European strategist, a chap called Rangziv Ahmed, who is coming up for parole in June. And that is deeply concerning because Al-Qaeda has been having a beauty parade with Islamic State for quite some time, trying to decide who is the biggest dog on the block, if you like, and there's a competition between the two of them. So you making your comments about the St. George's flag, I was exactly the same, Jeremy. It's a case of, hang on a second, have we got a two-tier policing where we can't go out with a St. George's flag without immediately being tarnished as potentially far right, or it being deemed as a action of far right. So, you know, there are some massive concerns. There's distortment and imbalance, as I can see, certainly in how threats are perceived. But I think people are feeling, certainly many of the people I talk to on an everyday basis, are feeling somewhat anxious about what is currently presented and what possibly could be ahead.
Will, I think you might have misunderstood what Jeremy was saying there. It was actually, we were talking on St George's Day about whether or not we should be proud of the St George's cross and all of the kind of confusion over what that symbolism is. And then, sadly, the following day, the police were attacked by thugs in the middle of Westminster. So I'm not sure about that
Nick's right. What I meant by that was it seems to be everywhere. We've got marches on the streets. You know, I was very forceful about saying I don't even want to reclaim my flag. It's my flag. And then I see these thugs attacking the police and doing all of that. And you just think, good God, and we talk about security. I don't know whether this is an over-egging of the situation, but in many instances, one just feels like so much has broken down, be it abroad, be it here. Just socially right behaviour. I mean, I guess the other thing is, with terror, I guess we hear that the security level has been ramped up. Do we hear about things that are foiled? Do we hear about things that are coming? Do they only tell us? I'm sounding like I'm a conspiracy theorist here, but do we only hear what they want us to hear, I guess is my question, Will?
Well, a bit of both. And to cover your first point, and Nicola, you know, thanks for picking me up on that. The point I'm making is, yes, there are always going to be agitators. There are always going to be those that are going to exploit these situations. But I think there is a broader perspective that I've drawn from people, certainly about St. George's Day, that almost people were too worried about showing their St. George's flags. And these were individuals that were not agitators. But to go to your point, Jeremy, yes, absolutely. The security services will only release information that they deem is either appropriate, and they're going to be very spurious about, obviously, the details about how they fold it, because obviously they don't want to give away the tradecraft, the tactics, the strategies that they're employing to intercept potential terrorist threats. But we have to go by the figures that are released. And last year was certainly an extremely high year for terrorism-related offences and for individuals that were arrested according to those. And that was 219. But something that may answer both those questions in some regards was the highest number of individuals of 17 and younger, and that was 19% of that number of individuals arrested for terrorism-related offences. And that shows the propagation of hate, of agitation, which is happening through social media. And this is, I think, where a lot of people are feeling remarkably anxious. They're being deluged by material that is uncontrolled by individuals that is potentially hitting a disenchanted audience who could be radicalized or are vulnerable to being radicalized.
Well, thank you so much
Will,
for joining
thanks,
us
mate.
this morning. Security expert Will Geddes there.